We are witnessing a lost generation of graphics cards here. Having followed the industry for 20 years, looking back at all those generations, each leaves behind a legacy of some sort. A story they can be summarised with. Normally it's something as simple as one company's products were better than the other. Maybe one side had a reputation for being more power hungry, or hot, or noisy. Or maybe one company managed to release their cards long before the other did. But this generation, what we're experiencing here is unprecedented. The products themselves are actually rather good. Ray tracing has finally arrived, and is supported by every card released so far this generation, from both AMD and Nvidia. This should be a reason to rejoice, yet instead the market has never been more dire. No one can afford a new card with there being a good £500 markup on every card in existence. Normally when this happens to a generation of products, you can just buy a previous generation card, and for a heavy discount. But no, those have also been immensely marked up. We're used to prices dropping every year, yet the reverse is happening here. There's no escape. Right now all you can do is to hold onto your existing graphics card and to pray that it doesn't fail on you. And there's no end in sight to this situation. It seems utterly hopeless, and if you're like me, you're losing interest in following the hardware scene because of it. So come, children, sit down and let me tell you a story from long, long ago. It's not quite the same as what's happening now, but there is a happy ending to it, and it gives me hope that the same will happen this time, eventually. Long ago, PCs used to only have one core. One! What can you get done with just one core? Well, people found a way of getting by. Then Intel released their dual-core CPUs. But they weren't proper dual cores, they were just like two CPUs strapped together with glue. That doesn't count. But AMD then launched their X2 series. This, at the time, was AMD's greatest moment of triumph. I wanted one of these X2 processors, but AMD, can you believe, sold these things for high prices. Some of them were as high as $1,000, and even the cheapest was about £200, which was still beyond what I could afford. Intel responded to this with the Core 2 Duo, and I couldn't believe it. These were faster, more efficient, and cheaper than AMD's X2 processors were. Overnight, prices were slashed, and I ended up getting a Core 2 Duo. It got me through university, and I loved that thing. France. As a side note, just a year after this, Intel rolled out a quad-core CPU called the Q6600. 4 cores, in an era when most people had just one. Despite Intel's aggressive more cores mantra, gamers would be better off saving money and getting a better graphics card instead rather than buying into Intel's aggressive shill marketing blah blah blah. Sorry, wrong company. But yeah, at the rate things were progressing back then, no wonder I was expecting 8 and even 16 core CPUs to be out within just a matter of years. But alas, that didn't happen. In short, Intel pulled ahead again with the Core 2 Duo series, and AMD couldn't catch up again. Sure, for a while AMD's X2s competed with aggressive price cuts and higher clocked components, but slowly and surely, Intel's superior products took hold of the market. Each new generation of AMD CPUs lost them ground, while Intel's only got better and better. You might have heard of Intel's Core I series, because it's the name that they're still using to this day. Yeah, when they moved to that was another big leap for CPU performance. But this is where the story really got sad for AMD. They couldn't hope to compete with the i7s in the conventional manner, so they designed Bulldozer, which would combat Intel by offering more cores. But it failed. Hard. In a best case scenario, using very specific software, an 8-core AMD CPU could match a 4-core Intel one. But most of the time, and for most users, it would suck, and would get outperformed by an i5, because Bulldozer's single-core performance was atrocious. We're not talking a few percent worse here, we're talking terrible. Worse than AMD's previous generations of CPUs. It was at this point that I lost interest in the CPU market. I've never been someone to buy a new PC every generation, but I realised I kept up with the latest products because I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the drama and the competition. I used to excitedly tune in for each new product release, as though it was like a new episode of a TV series that I enjoyed. But when Intel had got such an advantage, all this lost its appeal to me. Mid-range was £150 and you got 4 cores, high-end was 4 cores with hyperthreading for about £220, and this would repeat every single generation, year after year. When it was my time to upgrade, I bought an i7, then tuned out from the CPU market to enjoy my purchase, because following the CPU market had become boring. This is how I feel about the graphics card market today. The situation is different in that both companies still have decent products, but instead, I can't think of a generation that I've cared less about, simply because they aren't available, and certainly not at the prices they should be at. As an observer, I didn't think it would matter about that. I could still read the reviews and imagine how good they'd be at the prices they should have been and so on, but I just can't imagine these cards being available at the prices they should be at. And when I try to, it feels like I'm living in a fantasy land. So I've accepted that all graphics cards today are unreasonably expensive. And for some reason, that really matters to me. I guess it means I can't toy with the idea of upgrading my second rig with a cheap new card, or to suggest good stuff to friends who have been looking to upgrade. All those little opportunities used to excite me, even if I didn't end up doing anything with them. But with the market the way it is right now, those opportunities don't even exist anymore. The market, despite having some awesome products, has become boring. Let's return to the CPU story now. AMD sucked, and Intel was releasing 4-core CPUs for the same price every generation. Then they started to release 6-core CPUs, 8, and even 10. But did this lower prices? No, they just released these for higher and higher. $1,000, $2,000. And the price of the consumer products didn't budge an inch. And worse still, any hope of AMD possibly catching up had well and truly disappeared. If they couldn't compete with Intel's 4-core offerings, what hope was there of them beating their 6 or 8-core CPUs? Intel could drop the prices whenever they wanted, crushing AMD in an instant. But then, in 2016, Ryzen was announced. Whisperings that its 8 cores could rival Intel's 8 cores. What would the price be? I can't find the forum posts to support this now, but from what I remember, nobody expected Ryzen to be as competitive nor as cheap as it ended up being. People expected AMD to undercut Intel's prices, but not by a lot. I think $500 for an 8-core CPU would have been about as good as anybody was hoping for, and even that sounded too good to be true. But we all know what happened, don't we? 8-core Ryzens were released for as little as $330, and instead of a 4-core i5, we could now get a 12-threaded Ryzen for the same price. Per core, it might not have been as fast, but it was fast enough. Ryzen revolutionized the CPU market overnight, but for me, its repercussions lasted for years. I suddenly found myself excited about CPUs again. I had forgotten how exciting it was to follow new, competitive products and exciting new architectures. And not only the Ryzen ones, I suddenly found the story leading up to that point to be more exciting than it had been before. And I was also excited for the future. My love of the CPU market had been rekindled. And do you know what I have to thank for all of that? I thank Bulldozer. I thank the stagnation. I thank those years when my interest in CPUs completely vanished, as I accepted that AMD would never be competitive again. My expectations had been set well and truly back to zero, only to be blown wide open by Ryzen again. You couldn't have written a more exciting comeback story if you had tried. And since then I have had hundreds of hours of fun simply looking up reviews and getting excited for the story ever since. That's what I hope we have to look forward to with the graphics card market. At some point. Right now it feels hopeless. There's no end in sight to the chip shortages, the scalping, the $1,000 plus mid-range cards. It's a shocking display. But all that will only make the comeback all the more exciting. If it ever happens.